Just a few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be one of the few Americans who's traveled to Japan since COVID has been a thing, and I finally got to experience the entirely new Fantasyland, the expansion of Tokyo Disneyland, which includes Minnie's Style Studio, the Happy Ride with Baymax, and the Big Pop, which is the first popcorn store, and as well the entirety of Belle's Village and the highly anticipated e-ticket attraction, the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. So, how was it all? Well, let's find out in another one of Tom's Honest Reviews. So, I think it's been well documented since 2018 that Tokyo Disney is my favorite place in the world. It is a place where sometimes the limitations that feel like they exist on the U.S. parks seem to melt away in Japan over the years, whether it be, entertainment budget restrictions or just the wildest amount of theming. Tokyo DisneySea, that park defies all explanation, where every inch of it is insanely themed. In a lot of ways, it feels like the other parks around the world have just been trying to catch up for the last 20 years since that opened. And so Tokyo Disney has this reputation for whenever they build something big and new, that it is amazing, to the point at which just a couple of years ago, they built a clone of Soarin', which far and away is the best version of Soarin'. It is in an insanely detailed show building that has this incredible queue and backstory and original characters, and even the load area is themed, and everything about it is so far beyond all the other versions of Soarin' that exist. That's how extra, as the kids would say, Tokyo Disney Resort is. So obviously we were very much looking forward to the 2020 opening of their entirely new Fantasyland area, this expansion. And as we were supposed to go for the opening of that on April 15th of 2020, COVID happened. And so we canceled that trip. And obviously Japan has not been open for tourism for over 2 years. And just back in June, they slowly started to allow tourism through tour groups. And so you could book with a tour agency and get a tour guide. And through that method, you were allowed to visit Japan over the summer. And so we did that. We ended up paying the ridiculous fee of a tour agency and had a private tour guide, and that allowed us to go. So hopefully that will go away sooner rather than later. I know they got rid of the testing requirements, which seems like nonsense that that's the first thing that's gone away at this point, and not the necessity of a tour guide or a tour agency being involved. They still want you to give them that money. You don't need to get a COVID test though now. Big whoop. But anyway, this is meant to be evergreen content and not talk about COVID. Let's talk about this expansion. So again, over a couple of years ago, they started to get rid of some attractions. In Tomorrowland, they got rid of their version of the Speedway. They got rid of the Star Jets, which they still had after all these years. And they cleared space for an expansion, which originally was kind of crazy. They were going to move It's a Small World at one point and build an Alice in Wonderland area and all this other stuff. But in the end, they landed on a new plan, which added in Tomorrowland this new Baymax area. In Mickey's Toontown, added a new meet and greet facility for Minnie Mouse called Minnie Style Studio. And then in the back of Fantasyland, built this Beauty and the Beast area with a major e-ticket attraction, as well as a theater, by the way, which is the Fantasyland Forest Theater and Mickey's Musical World. Magical Music World? I forget the name of that show. I can't remember it. It's very confusing and very generic. But regardless, we'll keep rolling on. So a new Fantasyland theater, big e-ticket, small village with shopping and dining, new meet and greet facility for Minnie, small Baymax ride, and a store for popcorn. A store dedicated to popcorn, because it's Tokyo Disney. So let's talk about it. Let's start we'll leave Beauty and the Beast for last. Let's start in Tomorrowland. The Happy Ride with Baymax is the latest version of the Mater's Junkyard Jamboree ride system, which has been slowly implemented, I think, almost at every Disney resort on Earth at this point. I know it started with Junkyard Jamboree, and then we got Alien Swirling Saucers in Florida. Shanghai got the Woody's Roundup version of that ride, and no one else has gotten one yet, have they? Yeah. So there's those three. So number four of 6 resorts around the world would be Happy Ride with Baymax. So instead of the aliens in the saucers, you have Baymax, a bunch of Baymaxes driving people around on a happy ride that's made to make sure you feel happy. This is sort of the latest creation from the Big Hero 6 gang to, Baymax is your personal healthcare companion. He's going to make sure you have a happy ride and feel good. And so it's that same ride system. And it's not improved, it's not better, it's not worse. I think Mater's Junkyard Jamboree is still my favorite version of this just because it is. I like it without the roof. I understand there's a lot of climates where you can't get rid of the roof. And I hate to say it, but Shanghai included doesn't have the roof either, and it's very pleasant. This works really well as an outdoor ride. It just always feels, especially during the day, it feels so dark and dreary in there. Same as Swirling Saucers, where I don't care for that setup either. What I think Happy Ride has over Swirling Saucers is the music. They did all original music for this, and it is all super upbeat and very, I think it's kind of J-pop in a lot of ways. I'm not the expert, but that's what it sounds like to me. And then also they have, the cast members that work at the ride have choreographed dance that they do while operating the ride. And then also what'll happen is a bunch of guests will show up that do the dances along the perimeter of the ride, and people are doing it in the queue, and even some people are doing it on the ride. And it's one of those things that makes Tokyo Disney so special, is that the crowd there really seems to love choreograph dancing. And so all the shows in the park, there's a dance to learn and everyone does it. And the Happy Ride with Baymax is very much along those lines, where everyone does this dance. And the music is very catchy. A majority of the songs are really phenomenal. And so it's a really upbeat, fun experience. I think the queue could have been a little better for Tokyo Disney. There's a couple of really cool props to look at. There's the, in case of emergency, break glass for the tape dispenser, which of course would be used to heal Baymax if you pop a hole in him. Some little things like that. But in the end, there's a big decal wall, and it's much more, it feels much more like something that was built for the US parks in recent years, honestly. But it's a fun ride. It's not worth the 45 minutes and up wait time it's getting. We waited a long time for it, and I felt bad about it, but we did it. We rode it twice, and it was a happy ride. Next door to that is the Big Pop, which is the first ever popcorn store in the history of any of the parks, but specifically at Tokyo Disney, where flavored popcorn is such a thing. It's such a big part of the place's identity. And so they've done this place where they have at any time they'll have 3 special flavors, but also they'll sell just about every souvenir popcorn bucket that is available on property is in the shop. So there's just this wall of insanely beautiful popcorn buckets. You've seen me do the unboxings and stuff here on the channel. Their popcorn buckets are just unreal. They're crazy. And so to see them all on a wall and be able to like pick one out and all these flavors is great. In my vlog from the trip, I review the popcorn flavors, so I don't need to bore you with that now. But it's a fun little place. I love that there's a popcorn store. It's a weird, quirky Tokyo Disney thing. All right, moving over to Toontown, they have Minnie Style Studio, which we did get to experience. And for really just being a Minnie Mouse meet and greet facility, it is fantastic. The building is cute. The queue is adorable. The Figaro popping out of a hat box, and there's fake steam coming off an iron that is like burnt through an ironing board, and all this crazy detail as if Minnie owns a style studio. And there's a reception desk and all these little details. There's even a nod to the Star Jets and to the Speedway because they were replaced by the expansion. The other really cool thing is that seasonally her costume changes. I mean, it's a style studio. Minnie's making clothes, and obviously clothing styles change with the season. So 4 times a year, Minnie wears a different outfit. And for being just a meet and greet experience with a queue, it is everything those experiences should try to be. It reminded me a lot of, I like Town Square Theater at the Magic Kingdom. I think they did a great job with that. That was a time when they were spending more money during the Tom Staggs era. And this is evocative of that, and it's in Toontown. It fits Toontown so well. It's a really pleasant experience. Very enjoyable. out to the Fantasyland Forest Theater and Mickey's Musical Magic World, Magical Music World, whatever it is. We'll show the real name at the bottom here and correct Tom, because I have no idea. I just want to talk about the theater itself. The theater itself is beautiful. It is this gorgeous, so it's in the woods behind the castle, behind Beast Castle. It's this really charming area. Leading to that, there is a snack stand that's themed to the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the Festival of Fools kind of theme, which was unexpected, very cool. And then there's this whole lead up with a stream and trees. It's beautiful back there and really immersive. And just everything about this theater, you walk into this courtyard and you're encircled by this theater facade, and there's big fake mountain in the background, mountain range. It's gorgeous. It really sets the scene. And then the interior is just as beautiful. There's all these tapestries and murals with little references to Disney movies. There's some posters outside by the stroller parking areas. There's 4 of those, which I'm not sure even most of the Japan audience even knows who the characters are in the posters. There's like a big bad wolf and a Marie. And there's one with Prince John from Robin Hood. They're very cool. And then inside, again, that detailing, the tapestries, there's all these woodland, all these fur characters from Disney film lore. And a lot of that theming continues into the theater itself is so pretty on the inside. It is a gorgeous facility. And then Magic Music World is a really good show. I'd equate it to, it's a Disney character show, right? So I equate it to things like Mickey's Royal Friendship Fair, to what is it, Mickey and, there's so many of these Mickey and shows, I forget the names of them now. I think it's Mickey and the Wondrous Book in Hong Kong, but then it was Mickey and the Magical Map at Disneyland, and they're character shows where it's like Mickey's in this world and the other characters in this world, and they get plopped into other stories, and there's a music number that somewhat formulaic at this point, but this show uses the facility to its benefit. It has really big set pieces and really impressive projection technology being used throughout. And what's funny is coming off, we just did the review of the Disney Wish, and I think one of the things we said about the Little Mermaid show on the Wish was how they reused a lot of the propping over and over, and it's like you couldn't build a boat. There's no boat, so they're just on like a rocky staircase, which is, as the theater goer, I'm supposed to believe that's also the boat. That's very high school play. And then what's funny is we go to this show and there's a Peter Pan segment and an Ursula segment, and a whole boat actually comes out. And I look at my significant other and I was like, well, there's what was missing from the Disney Wish show. Again, that's the thing about Tokyo. It very rarely feels like there are budgetary restrictions on almost anything. And so even this little character show just has all these great set pieces that move and spin, and this big boat comes out, and it's a great little show. It is for a Disney character show, it is one of the best I've seen, and is worth checking out on your visit. And I love this little village area. Speaking of village area, out in front of the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast is Belle's Village, where they have Maurice's Cottage in full. It doesn't serve an actual purpose here. Originally, it was supposed to be home for the Fast Pass kiosks, but obviously Fast Pass is dead. So the machines are just covered there, but you can go walk up to the house, and every once in a while, even from the village, you'll hear an explosion as if Maurice is working on some invention and something's gone wrong. And but it's the house really built with all of its detail. Not that the one at the Magic Kingdom isn't, but I like how everything is laid out. It feels like everything is laid out correctly in this land. I like New Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom. I think I've always been a little weird about the layout of the land, and that like there's the house and everything's pointed, has its back to one wall. And so it's Maurice's cottage and the castle and then the village. And that doesn't feel like the proper layout from the film series. And they were working with a fresh plot of land, so there were possibilities, right? And so I've never been, like the village doesn't have a lot of depth. And the castle obviously is very small. It's a small little castle up on the hill, which even with forced perspective doesn't always completely work. And Enchanted Tale, that section's pretty much perfect. But The layout of this land in Tokyo is it feels like you're in the movie, precisely in the movie, in that there's the cottage, and then you walk a little bit, and then you're in the middle of the town, and from the middle of town you see out in the distance this giant castle, and it really draws you in, and you're in, again, the village is so big, so much bigger than the Florida village. We have this giant set of shops, bonjour gifts, and etc. Where the inside is just, it's all these different stores. You have the library, which is in the movie, and you have the seamstress shop, and all the village shops are in this block. And then the Tavern of Gaston is this really big counter service facility. So it's much bigger and seems much more to scale with what it is in the film, because they do go inside the venue in the film, so you have an idea as a film viewer what the tavern looks like. And so this really feels like it has its nice big separate ordering area, and then you go into the big seating area, and there's the fireplace with the chair, again out of the Florida Fantasyland. But then there's this big room accompanying it, which looks like the room they sing the Gaston number in the film. Also, the food was pretty good. There was a French toast sandwich, and also, again, we have reviews up here on the channel for you to watch, and as well in my vlog that's going to be put out from our trip, you'll see us try all the food in Tavern de Gaston. But it felt proper. And then LeFou has his own little churro stand, and there's popcorn and ice cream stands, which are really well themed as well. Maurice's inventions. We have a popcorn stand like that in the Florida Fantasyland too, so it wasn't too far flung from that. But then we got to talk about Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. First and foremost, the lead up to the attraction is unreal. I really, in 2012, I was one of the, still am, I like New Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom a lot, and I like Be Our Guest Restaurant, and I think that bridge to the mountain with the castle on top, I always really like that, but this blows it away. Absolutely blows it away. They've built the castle in full, and so you get to the foot of the bridge, and there's just this giant, dark, foreboding castle across the way, and it's beautiful. And the really cool thing is, if it's working that day, the mist, they have the whole river going underneath the bridge and all the rock work, and there's misters in there, and so it's really cool. The first day we went was the misters were running, and it's just this mysterious fog coming up, and it adds to this tableau of the castle, which looks sort of a little run down and a little abandoned, and then there's this mysterious fog rolling in from the mist. It's really, really, really great. And then you go up the bridge, and you go in, and the rooms inside the queue are magnificent. And they don't delve too much into the realm of fantasy. It is that, I'd say it's the way Be Our Guest Restaurant works at the Magic Kingdom, right? And all the spaces there where they do very much have nods from the cartoon, but everything's been altered a little bit to fit more into the real world also. So it doesn't feel like you're in a cartoon so much as it feels like you're in the real place. So everything is not quite modeled after the look of the film, except the characters. The characters perfectly look like they're from the film. And so like the Ottoman is there, the dog Ottoman, and his tail, Sultan, I believe is his name. And so every once in a while, everything slowly starts to come to life as you go through the queue. And so in the first room, you see Cogsworth and Lumiere, but they're pretending to not be alive. And Sultan the Ottoman is trying his best to not, and then every once in a while you'll see the back of the Ottoman sway like a dog wagging its tail. And you go into the next room, and it's Mrs. Potts and Chip and the coat hanger, the coat rack. And every once in a while, Chip will teeter a little bit, and the coat rack will like calm him down. And this continues until you get into the mega pre-show room, which giant pre-show room, which has the balconies and the big stained glass window. And they use this great use of projection technology to bring the stained glass window to life. What's cool about it is it's sort of this multi-level thing, which is similar to what they did at Soaring Fantastic Flight in DisneySea, where it looks like you are looking through a stained glass window because behind it you see brickwork, you see the outside world beyond the projected stained glass window. But the most amazing part is, I go on and on about how much I dislike screens and how much I miss when we would build rides with a lot of animatronics. The pre-show begins and there's the rose in the glass case and this giant beast animatronic. You hear it stepping forward and it comes out of the shadows and it's giant and its movement is perfect. And then Belle, this incredible Belle figure, walks forward from the other balcony with her lantern in hand. And it is like the characters have actually come to life and they have this whole interaction. It is one of the best pre-shows I have ever seen anywhere, bar none. Truly fantastic. And you proceed through, and so then the story continues. So this is the point in the movie you are in, where she's arrived, she's staying here now, and she's hungry, and it's time for dinner. So you go through the sort of the servants' quarters and into the kitchen area. So much great detailing. And there's some fun little vignettes too. On the left side, there's Mrs. Potts and Chip behind a rag. There's a projection of them where they're blowing bubbles and talking. And on the other side, there are animatronic versions of Cogsworth and Lumiere who are sort of cowering in fear of this big shadow projection of the beast. And so you get to the kitchen and there's the big, the living stove. They didn't animate him or anything. He's just a statue. I think that's probably where the one budget concession was made. But all of this is blowing you away. So the fact that there's a statue of a stove man, probably okay. The load area in the kitchen is giant, absolutely massive, because they're going to load 6 of these giant enchanted, they were originally supposed to be teacups and saucers, but I think they made them so big that they became sort of giant enchanted soup bowls. And they look just like the dishware in the Be Our Guest scene. And so 6 of them that seat 10 guests each. So you're loading 60 guests at a time into these 6 giant bowls. And so they load everyone in and the bowls start to line up by the doors if they're about to be served out to the dining room. And then that's when the attraction begins and the doors open and you're in the dining room and there's the table. Not much of the table is set. It's just Belle has her menu. She's looking on from the table and you're all looking on, and there's Lumiere, a great animatronic form, the same one from Enchanted Tales, which has always been an impressive figure, a great way to bring the character to life. And he begins the song, Be Our Guest, and the bowls dance around the room, and Belle's dancing, and things start to slowly come to life in the room. The cupboards open and the plates dance, and while you're not looking at the table, more stuff comes up on the table, and slowly more and more stuff, and Cogsworth stuck in the Jell-O, and Chip comes out of like a fountain of beverage, and just everything, and the champagne bottles pop, and it's a great scene. But this ride there's no getting around this. This ride would never play, I think, to an American audience. I think the US parks people would be like, that's a weird ride. I think it works really well for the Japanese audience, I think, for a number of reasons. I think the trackless ride and the fact that not only is it trackless like Runaway, so like Runaway Railway, it's trackless, can go anywhere. Unlike Runaway Railway, though, it has the motion base and it uses that way more than any ride that's had the motion before. So more than Remy barely has it. But the soup bowls really sway. And so through the dance number, so when it's like course by course, and like the whole thing starts going like this back and forth, and it's really truly dancing to the music. It's like Rollickin' Roadsters in Cars Land on steroids. Where Rollickin' Roadsters, I think, is really fun. It's this fun outdoor ride where the vehicles kind of dance. I mean, they dance as best they can without a motion base. But imagine Rollickin' Roadsters, but then there's more life to the vehicles because they can tilt and sway and sort of bop to each beat of the music. And so imagine if Rollickin' Roadsters was turned into a Fantasyland dark ride. That's kind of what Enchanted Tale is, where we're going to take you into each musical scene of the ride and you're going to dance in that scene while things happen around you. And you're going to dance to almost the whole musical number, in fact. So you get most of the Be Our Guest number and you're in there and the vehicles are all dancing around each other as various props and things pop up. The room where you kind of understand this, because I think there's not enough to look at, is the next scene, which is Something There, which has great animatronics. There's the Beast up on the balcony, and Belle is with the horse Philippe, and you're all outside the castle. And it's meant to be like you're ice skating, like you're on an ice rink during this scene in the film. So the beast is up there on the pedestal, and he's like trying to feed the one bird, and suddenly like the other hand of the animatronic comes up, and he's got a bunch of birds, and he has that really weird smile he makes in the scene he makes, and then she's with Philippe, and she's processing her feelings for the beast, and it's cute, but it goes on for a long time because, again, everything has to time out, right? So all the scenes have to be about the same length because all 6 vehicles have to spend that time in the scene. And this is the one where it becomes clear that they were like, we don't really know what else to do with you in this scene. So you appear to ice skate, and the number feels like it goes on forever. And the vehicles are just ice skating, so the cars sway, and they go across, and they sort of dance in the middle. You'll cross paths with another soup bowl. The animatronics are great, and the scene is cute, and eventually it starts to snow in the scene, and it's cute enough. For me, it's the weakest scene in the ride, which doesn't say much because it's still really neat. Then you go into, there's going to be a series of hallway scenes now. So these are not dancing scenes. And so at this point, you go into a scene where it's Belle and the Beast, and they've fallen in love, and she's in the trademark yellow gown, and he's in his big blue outfit, and they're looking at the stars. A shooting star comes across, and Mrs. Potts and Chip and Lumiere and Cogsworth in animatronic form are there, and it's a really cute scene. But then, of course, everything goes, you turn around, and outside the windows of the castle, the villagers have shown up with Gaston, and they're going to kill the beast. And so you see the shadows of the villagers coming by with their pitchforks and such on these actual flats, not using screens, actual flats that are beautifully done. And then you pass these little vignettes of either Madame Wardrobe or Fifi, the little duster, the maid duster, holding the doors closed so the villagers can't break in. And then you arrive at the moment where the last petal is falling and the beast has been stabbed by Gaston. You don't see any of that. That's the other thing. I think Imagineering in total, they've, and I guess OLC for that matter, as well as Disney, have decided with these Fantasyland dark rides to take the battle part out of them. So I think the biggest problem a lot of people had with Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid, or whatever you want to call it, has different names in different places. DCA, I think it's The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure. And I think the problem people had is like, yeah, it does a really great job taking you into the musical scenes, and that's the purpose of the ride. So they just skip the part where they fight Ursula, and there's this little silhouette of Ursula dying in the corner. It's like, we're skipping this. She died. Moving on. Happy ending. There's more of the conflict in this, in that you see the villagers storm the castle and you see the characters fight them off. You do not see any of the fight outside. But in truth, you never leave the castle, right? You're in the castle the whole time. So you're not out on the balcony and stuff to see this fight between Gaston and the beast. Nonetheless, you see the petal fall on one side of the room and the vehicles turn, and there's the beast body, and Belle, animatronic Belle, is there weeping about it. And suddenly the magic starts to happen as she says, I love you. You see all the stardust and whatever, I don't know what it's supposed to be, whatever it's supposed to be, starts to hit, and this giant beast carcass raises off the floor and begins to spin, and then it just vanishes. It's just gone. And in its place is the human form of the beast, the prince, and he levitates back down to the ground, this animatronic, and he tells Belle that it's him. And then again, I'm typically against screens, and there's very few uses of projection mapping where, I loved when they put it on the castle. There's some places in rides where I feel like they could have done something physical and they didn't, because it's like, oh, we have projections now. We can just do this. This is one of the most perfect uses of projection mapping there has been. It's also, whatever projectors they're using are so crisp that it doesn't, you don't get taken out of the story realizing, oh, that's a projection. Because it doesn't, there's no pixelation whatsoever. It looks so crisp that it looks real. And so this big gray hallway suddenly turns gold. And so you see, just like in the movie, as like the castle heals with him, you see everything come back to life, and it sweeps across the room. And as you travel to the next room, it's following you across. And there are, again, some flat cutouts of the castle outside the window that also do the effect. And it's really crisp and pretty. And all of this feeds into the music swells, and you go into the Beauty and the Beast number with the big finale in this giant ballroom. Imagine if all the chairs were cleared in Björgen's restaurant and you had just the whole ballroom as a ride scene. That's what this is. And in the middle of that is animatronic Belle and the Beast, and they're dancing and they're moving. It's actually like back and forth movement. They're not like stuck in place. It's a great effect. And then again, how this ride continues to be weird. Not only that there's just this big dark ride where you're dancing alongside other soup bowls, and it's so unlike any ride that's ever been done in the US. You then have a thing I never thought I would ever see in my entire life. Animatronic versions of the characters in Beauty and the Beast as humans. So Lumiere and Cogsworth, even Fifi, human Fifi is an animatronic. We can't get them to put animatronics, even one in the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster. They budget cut all of them. And Tokyo Disney built an animatronic of Fifi the maid. Tokyo Disney is like a fever dream. As a US parks person, this can't be real. How did this happen? And even like the Ottoman has become the dog again, and Mrs. Potts and Chip are human. They're all human and animatronics, and it's just this surreal moment of, I can't believe this is a real ride that got built somewhere. And you're almost in tears because the music is swelling, the Beauty and the Beast number, and the lighting in the room is going along with it, and the animatronic characters on the sides are swaying, and you dance with the other teacups. And again, the music swells at the end as you come out the back doors. The other cool thing that's happening in there is they have the big windows outside, and you see the sun, sun rising in the east is in the song, and the sun actually rises over the mountains, which are not just a projection, they're actually there in the big window. And you go through the doors, and the music swells for the end of the song as if it's the end of the movie and the credits are about to play, and you pass you have the rose in the glass case with this beautiful waterfall flowing from it, and the stained glass scene that ends the movie of them living happily ever after. And the teacups park, and the music ends, and then the bowls spin around, and it's time for you to unload, and you've just had probably one of the most memorable ride experiences of your entire life. The other thing I want to mention, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, I'm gonna say this. It needs to be said. It's not a great ride. It's okay. I love that rooftop scene. The load area is so pretty, and so is the big fridge is cool too. But the screen scenes are very bad. You see this big black floor in front of you, and the projections. It's supposed to be, oh, you're falling through the window, and oh, now you're running across the floor, and that illusion is never completed because you see that black floor. It never at any point feels like you were actually there. Like other rides that use projection domes, there are very effective ways to make people feel like the projection dome is actually where you're going. Remy doesn't hit that at all. Runaway Railway, even like the projection dome part where you dive into the water, even there, like it's done better there. And I hate the rest of that ride, so it's weird that I'm giving it praise. But again, the idea that Tokyo Disney would just take things to the next level. So what they did in the finale scene, they've realized all the problems they've had with other rides where it's like, all right, you don't want to have the plain floor. And second to that, we've realized that the rides damage the floor. You inevitably will see all the track marks of the trackless ride where it runs. You see it in Rise of the Resistance, you see it at Remy, you see it at Runaway Railway. The floors are just, Rise, it's really apparent because they did the shiny floor because you're on a Star Destroyer. It's supposed to look like the floors on the Star Destroyer, so I get it. But what they did at Beauty and the Beast was realizing they're like, those floors are going to look marked, and it's really going to take people out of the experience. Is there a way, since we know where the vehicles are going to travel, could we project from the ceiling straight down onto the ride path what the floor is supposed to look like. And then what we'll do is the projection won't be there for the circles where the vehicles are. So the guests are not getting hit with any of this light because it's just it's a spot where it's not projecting. There's nothing being projected where your vehicle is. But all around your vehicle, they're projecting on the floor. So they project that beautiful tiled floor so that you don't notice that the floor is marked up. You don't notice that that's happened. You are fully immersed in the ride and where you're supposed to be. And I think there is no better example of why Runaway Railway is a bad attraction than the fact that this is from the same year, using the same technology and built by the same company. That this ride is everything everything an e-ticket trackless ride should be. Rise is great too. Rise is in that conversation. I like Rise of the Resistance. Remy and Runaway Railway are not in that conversation. They do not do anything that those two, that Enchanted Tale and Rise do. Rise has a bunch of cool technical things it does, like getting in the elevators and stuff, and then the whole pre-show experience, which is insane, that make it so special. And Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast takes what Remy's Ratatouille adventure was and is like, we're not going to make any of those mistakes. We're not doing projection domes. We're going to fully build scenes. We're going to fully do these things. It's the concept fully realized. It's everything that the modern trackless ride can be. Tokyo began the trackless dark ride with Pooh's Honey Hunt in 1999, or 2000, sorry. And from that point on, like, I don't think Remy or Railway touch Honey Hunt. They don't even come close. And then here's Enchanted Tale, which takes all that's like, oh, thank you guys for improving the technology a little bit. We'll take it from here, said Oriental Land Company. And then they change the game again. They build a trackless Fantasyland dark ride that is so far above and beyond the entries that Disney has made in that genre. It is perfection. It is a beautiful attraction. It is marvelous. It has so much heart and feeling and emotion. You feel everything you feel watching the movie, which is everything I don't feel on Ratatouille and on Runaway Railway. I feel nothing for those rides. I have no emotion connected to them. And Beauty and the Beast's not my favorite movie ever either. It's a great movie. I can't deny that. It's just not, you have your favorites. Beauty and the Beast's not one of my favorites. But this ride just hits all the right notes from that film. And the animatronics do feel like the characters jumped out of the movie, and you feel like you're really there with them. It is a great example of what Walt Disney Imagineering is capable of when they are not given such financial constraints as they are given at the U.S. parks. These people, and it's a shame because I'm going to say this, it needs to be said, a majority of the people, if not everyone, that worked on the expansion of Tokyo Disneyland was fired by Walt Disney Imagineering and the Disney Company during the COVID closures and such, which is a shame because these people are wildly talented and did a tremendous job. And they should be allowed to, the Walt Disney Company should be funding projects like this. They should be doing things like this instead of half-assing such rides like they did with Runaway Railway or like they did with Remy. And Remy had a reason to be sort of subpar when it was built for France because legitimately Disneyland Paris was not fully owned by the Disney Company at the time and did have financial trouble. I totally get it. Remy gets a pass for that. But the fact that Runaway Railway replaced the Great Movie Ride, which was a seminal original Disney attraction that only existed at that park, and on top of it, they built something that's going to be built in multiple parks, yet is such a subpar version of the same type of attraction that they've built so many better versions of already. It does not deserve to be in that building. It would be cute. It will be at Disneyland where it's not replacing anything. It's kind of an addition. Sure, it can be deemed cute, but it is not in the same conversation as Honey Hunt or Enchanted Tale or Rise of the Resistance. It is not anywhere in that conversation, in my opinion. The scenes are not pretty enough or well laid out enough. There's so many weird, wonky places. The animatronics look like hot garbage. Look at these Beauty and the Beast figures. I know someone will come in and be like, it's supposed to be a 2D cartoon. It's a different art style. That doesn't mean the animatronics have to look terrible. Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin opened in the 1990s and is, again, a ride where you are supposedly jumping into the 2D cartoon world. Those characters were built in 3D form, and there's a Roger animatronic at the end. They look great. And so do the scenes. The scenes are not fully flat because you've gone into the 2D world. They are at times, and it's acceptable because there are 3D things in front of it. But Runaway Railway being kind of fully 2D and just a bunch of rooms with projectors and flat surfaces, it's not an ambitious attraction at all. And I'm sorry to go on a Runaway Railway rant, but I think Enchanted Tale, again, opening in the same time frame, being built at the same time with the same ride technology by the same people, the same company built it. And they're so wildly different in quality that it needs to be said, and people need to know and understand that current Disney management just will try to get by on whatever budget they can get by on. And we need to, as a public, not accept that. Need to not accept that, because Enchanted Tale is, it's phenomenal. It's right there with Rise of the Resistance. They're both incredible trackless rides. And then the exit, even just little details in the exit, obviously everything had a happy ending. And so the castle portions you walk through at the exit are the new clean color, the color the castle's supposed to be when it's not run down. And so what's cool is I found a place where you could actually look on the castle and see where the color changes. So you can see by the exit where like your clean color starts to fade into that purple and dreary again. And I was like, what thoughtfulness and what care. And you go through a waterfall and you exit back out and you have to look back at the castle, and it's magnificent. Tokyo Disney Resort has done it again, and I cannot wait to see Fantasy Springs, to see the same love and care for Frozen and Tangled and Peter Pan. If this is what that's going to be like, we are in for probably the greatest themed land the Walt Disney Company has ever built. And I say Walt Disney Company because Imagineering built it, but Oriental Land Company are the heroes that are ordering this stuff, by the way, and are doing things right. They're still doing things right. So keep that in mind. I cannot wait. So excited. Anyway, if you enjoyed this honest review of these Tokyo Disney Resort editions, please hit the like button and please subscribe for more. We really appreciate it. And if you really want to support the programs, you can join the WDWNT Interglobe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. Thank you for watching, everyone. And remember, there's an animatronic Fifi. They built an animatronic Fifi, the maid. It's unreal.